All right, welcome to another episode of Challying the Boys. I am your host, Stephen Chalicombe, and you can follow me and the show on Twitter at ChallyATB. What we've got for you guys tonight is a follow-up on our fantasy football league. We're going into week 4, and unfortunately, the last time I think we did one was going into week 1. And just actually creating these videos and whatnot is a little more time consuming than what I ever realized, especially when you're not really getting paid for it. Um, and I'm totally gonna wing this episode as I pretty much did the last one, but even more so this time, right? Like, so I was technically in the middle of doing homework, and uh, I lost the ability to do homework because of a hurricane, I guess. I don't know. Whatever. Can't do homework, so we're doing podcasts, ladies and gentlemen. Podcasts on the Fantasy Football League. So what I have open up right now is just a quick glimpse at the standings. You can see boy, this is not in order here. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, it is in order. So we have one undefeated team still. This guy is 3-0. He's killing it. I think one of the top scorers in the league. Yeah, third best offense, and one of the better, I guess, technically defenses, if you will. We all know that's really not how that works. Whatever. So I only have one undefeated guy left. There we go. A bunch of 2-1s and a bunch of 1-2s, and then we have this poor guy down here, Dade County Hurricanes, 0-3, buddy. Not looking good for you. You might need a new head coach at the end of the year, if not right now. So quick glimpse at that. We saw that. So we'll jump right into the previews. And I finally decided to start Tua this week. I felt good. He was on my bench the first 3 weeks, and I was just like, man, like I'm gonna put him in, and he's just gonna screw me. Obviously, he ended up getting hurt, so hopefully he's healthy in the long run, and all that good jazz. But of course, the week I finally decide to put him in, he gets hurt, right? Unfortunately, shit happens. But of course, best of luck to Tua in whatever his recovery entails. I haven't seen anything on that, whether it's just a concussion or something else, but it is what it is. Joe Mixon did hook me up though, so thank you, Joe Mixon. Now that we got that out of the way, I think the biggest matchup for this week is actually going to be the flex position. And what I mean by that, so put cheese on everything. The undefeated team here hopefully does not notice that Michael Thomas um, is out this week, right? So that's hopefully a loss, or not really a loss, but a miss out on about 15 points, and hopefully that'll cancel out my essentially not having a quarterback this week. So that is what I am actually saying is the biggest matchup for myself this week. This is kind of cheesy, but it is what it is. The next matchup we got CD's Nuts versus Quadzillas. This is an extremely close matchup, at least in regards to projected points. Uh, Kyler Murray at Josh Allen. So Josh Allen's projected to get 28 points. I think it could be upwards of 40 between him and Lamar Jackson. Man, it's going to be a shootout, or at least I would anticipate a shootout. Uh, I would expect this number to be higher than 28, and I think that's going to be the difference here for this week in this matchup. Why did everything just turn blue like that? That was kind of weird. Didn't expect that. Um, and then long term, I think something else that'll really work out is this Kyle Pitts pick on Quadzillas, right? Like, so we saw earlier in the year, it was one of the Atlanta coaches essentially defending his lack of targeting Kyle Pitts to say that he wasn't playing fantasy football. Well, it's like, guess what, buddy? Maybe you should start playing fantasy football because you guys aren't really winning games, right? Like, I know you got a rookie quarterback. Oh, no, they got Mariota in, but I mean, he might as well be a fucking rookie quarterback. He's just a scrub. Um, so I think Kyle Pitts will really pan out closer to the latter of the year when they finally realize, like, man, we got this freak athlete. We should really be getting him the ball. We'll see. Nothing significant here on defense, so we'll just go on right into the next matchup. There is a huge gap in this one. Like, holy crap! Show me your TDs, dude. Just got empty holes here. Like, what is going on? Just throw a body in there, bro. But T Higgins, did T Higgins really get 25 points last night? No way. It's turn projected off. He did. Wow, I didn't realize he had that big of a game last night. That can't be right. Somebody help me out here. There's no way that's right, right? Okay. Anyway. And Lamar Jackson on come to the Dak side. So that's going to be another one, right? Like, I think he's going to have another massive, massive game. The Bills' defense is one of the better defenses in the league. However, they are banged up in the secondary. And Lamar Jackson's on a fucking tear right? Like he is destroying teams this year, um, both with his arm and his legs. So I would anticipate that number being at 30, if not over. It's gonna get ugly. Oh well. And then this Micah Parsons pick. We were actually talking the other day. So coming to the dockside. Hopefully I'm not like snitching on anyone here. Is actually one of the co-hosts of the main podcast Stash. And we'd really like to see this Micah Parsons linebacker position turn into a defensive end. So for those who don't know, and I'm sure most know, Micah Parsons has taken the majority, like the significant majority of his snaps at edge. Maybe your stand-up outside linebacker, but he's still rushing way more than what a traditional linebacker would. So we were actually saying we would really like to see defensive end put in there as well. I mean, that's probably not going to be a change we see until after the year. I don't know how often they update this kind of stuff, but that would just give a lot of teams who do have this individual defensive pick, defensive players in their league, just flexibility, right? Like that would just be something nice. And then we have the Dade County Hurricanes, who again are 0-3, and they're actually favored this week in projected points. Check that shit out. But Derek Carr, man, uh, Derek Carr's got to get his shit together, right? Like, so this is a really poor matchup. David Carr versus Patrick Mahomes. I think a lot of people, and I agree with this too. A lot of people think Patrick Mahomes is going to just go off this week against Tampa Bay. I think that Tampa Bay defense is extremely. They're good. Don't get me wrong, but I think they're extremely overrated. Um, and I think Patrick Mahomes might be able to beat them up, especially if they get out ahead early. It'll force that Tampa offense to. It'll put that Tampa offense in a situation that typically one, it doesn't like to be in, and two, it hasn't been in yet this year. And I know it's still early; it's only week 4, but their offense has not been challenged uh, at all, right? So if the Chiefs get out ahead early, that could get ugly quick, considering Tampa's you know lack of being able to probably keep up. We'll see though. And then of course the Stephon Diggs, man. Probably gonna have another huge game against those Baltimore corners. Baltimore probably has one of the worst secondaries in the league. So expect Diggs and the rest of the Buffalo receiving court to just kind of have a big day. So, um, I don't know any of the other Buffalo receivers off the top of my head. Not a professional at that. Don't get paid to know those kind of things. If you have them, you might want to look at putting them in a flex position because, as I've said, that Baltimore secondary, it's not good. And that is that. Nothing significant here on defense. Yada yada yada. And then happy endings versus Cage House. All right, this is the biggest gap. My poor wife has an injured player here. We got to fix that. I can't let her go down like that. But man, Jalen Hurts is just going to destroy Tom Brady in points this week. So that's already a bad matchup. I don't think Leonard Fournette's getting 20 points though. We'll see. Ooh, sorry. Um, Tyreek Hill had a good game, so there's a solid 25 banger. Did he really have them? Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did have a big game. I forgot. Um, Christian Kirk against this Philly defense, that is probably going to be a poor matchup, right? Like, so Trevor Lawrence has been playing extremely well, but this Philadelphia secondary, excuse me, is also extremely well. Like, I think they're very underrated. I understand they're 3-0, so it's hard to say a 3-0 team is underrated, but uh, Darius Slay and Bradbury, and maybe more Bradbury, really aren't getting the credit that he deserves, right? Like Darius Slay is very clearly getting credit. He's in the media and whatnot. So he's getting the attention he deserves. But there's the other side of the field, and Bradbury, and while he hasn't necessarily been playing lights out, I mean, their defense has been shutting out bad teams. Yes, they have been bad teams, but they are beating the bad teams they're supposed. That's what you're supposed to do. Beat up on the bad teams. Um, you can't fault Philly for doing the things they're supposed to do and doing it well. Um, Dallas Goedert, I don't think is going to have a big game. He hasn't necessarily been a huge role in this offense the way their receivers have been. So this could maybe not necessarily this weekend. I mean, yeah, actually probably this weekend and throughout the rest of the season is I would say a bad pick. Right? Like I wouldn't say trade this dude or cut him or whatever, but I don't know that he's going to consistently be getting you these 10 points in and out in every weekend. And then again, there's also a lot of teams that can't say that, hey, I got a tight end that can get me 10 points every weekend. So, um, but there's a potential move to be made here again because he's just not going to get the targets that other tight ends in the league are going to get. That's all. But babe, come on. Anthony Walker's hurt. It even says right here, injured reserved. We'll figure it out. We got this. And then the last matchup of the week, Dez does Dallas at the Zesbians. Dez does Dallas with a 10-point favor. The one thing I wanted to note here, this fucking dude robbed me, right? Like, so we we both put in a waiver claim for Khalil Herbert. He this is my brother. He did get him on the waivers before myself, so good for him. I hope for the sake of fantasy that Herbert breaks his leg. For the sake of Herbert in real life that he does not break his leg, of course, but um, for the sake of spite in fantasy, I hope he has a bad game. Maybe that's more appropriate. Maybe he just has a bad game. But then this Jamal Williams pick, man. Jamal Williams is a fucking stud, right? Like he doesn't necessarily get the huge yardage gain that who knows Swift's been getting, but he's getting a lot of the touchdowns in the red zone. So he has been a huge pick and uh, playmaker, and he's been a huge make or break guy for a lot of these teams across all leagues. Um, that was very underrated, right? Like a lot of teams, a lot of leagues weren't even drafting Jamal Williams because he was um, he was RB2 on a Detroit offense that everybody thought was gonna suck dick. Um, and guess what? It doesn't really suck dick. So yeah, a lot of people are picking him up off the free agent list or waiver wire, or whatever it is in their league. I believe Jamal Williams was actually drafted in ours, but granted it was a 12-team, 18 player per team draft, so it was pretty deep. Um, but man, that was a steal the way that's turning out so far. And Zesman has David Montgomery injured. Again, this is another one of those where like hopefully he just hasn't checked his team yet this week, and he can change that out because that's a 10-point difference there. You throw any running back in there that's going to take snaps this weekend, um, that could be the change here. And then, man, Devontae Smith, bro, there he is. He's probably going to have a big week against Jacksonville. Granted, Jacksonville's I believe I heard on the radio somewhere that their defensive or their DVOA, which is essentially their defensive efficiency, was second in the league. I personally don't know the truth behind that. Again, I think that was just something I heard on the radio. So I could actually be wrong. I could be mixing that up in a team. But either way, their defense has been playing really well for um, what a lot of people were not expecting. So we'll see. That will be an interesting matchup. Devontae and AJ Brown against that Jacksonville secondary. Yeah, shit, man. I guess that's it. Sorry, this. Ooh, Donovan Wilson. This is Donovan Wilson's been actually. We'll throw out the word sexy there, especially when it comes to fantasy football, right? Because a lot of people. He's yeah, Cowboy safety, blah blah blah. But Donovan Wilson's been getting sacks, right, at the safety position. So, and I think we've got sacks that count for 2.5 or maybe 3 points in our league, as well as points per tackles and pretty much all the generic stuff, right? But when your safety is able to pull out anywhere from 8 to 12 tackles a game, which is expected or average or normal, whatever, and then also get you a sack and a pass deflection, uh, that's an easy 10 points right there from a safety, or not 10 points, sorry. That's an easy upwards of 20 points. I think it's closer to like 15 or 16. That you were expecting to get like 6 or 7 or 8 points out of a player, right? Like you getting double on a consistent basis just because he's getting a single sack or pass deflection every week. So Don Wilson's been a huge surprise, especially in our league. And I'm sure he's a surprise in other leagues where they have individual defensive players. Um, choking on shit over here, sorry. With that being said, we'll wrap it up there. Um, Again, excuse the total winging it of this episode, right? Like I wasn't really planning on doing this, but it was a suggestion from my lovely wife, and I took that suggestion on board and I did it. So I'll try to get better about doing these, hopefully on a weekly, more consistent weekly basis, but we'll see. Um,